Hey, it's Rick. I'm back for Pajama Crafter Stamps today, and we are going to be making a window card using the In Full Bloom bundle. I'm using a 3 3/8 inch circle die to cut my window. But before we get into any of that, we need to color up our image. So I'm going to use my Ohuhu markers to color up my floral filled wheelbarrow. And we are going to be using a red violet, a violet, and a green alcohol markers to color these up with a splash of yellow. To start off, I'm assuming these are cabbage roses. I'm really not sure. That's what we're going to call them anyway. I'm coloring these up with V160 as my darkest color, V150 as my mid-tone, and V020 as my highlight. So I'm going to go ahead and finish coloring up all these. Any of those, the cabbage roses and the roses, I colored in the exact same color. And then I switched to color combinations on the daisies to switch that up a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to finish those up off screen, and I'm going to color my daisies and the tulips for you on the camera. And for this, I'm using R280, my darkest color. I'm putting that towards the center of the daisies. I'm also going to blend that out with R270, and I'm going to blend with my highlight now on the last part of the daisy for an R250. And then we're going to use that same color combination on the tulips. Remember, when anything is overlapping another object, like the petal on the tulip, you're going to have a shadow underneath it, so don't forget to put that in there. I'm blending that out with that same color combination, and we will just finish the rest of these flowers the same way off camera, and then we're going to come in and add a little bit of pop of color. I'm going to use a yellow combination. I'm using Y2, Y1, and Y3 for these small flowers at the very bottom. I'm just going to add a touch of I'm using the tip of my marker to just kind of dot in the little color, and I will blend that out just very slightly with just the tip. Anytime it's a small flower, I like to do that because I can get more colors in there by just using the very, very tip. I'm also going to color up the single flowers at the bottom that I stamped out. Those are going to be my embellishments for this card, whereas in the first card I used the butterflies as an embellishment. I decided for this version, I'm going to use the flowers in the stamp set, the little single flowers. So I forgot to color up my first two as I was coloring up the flowers, which is what I normally would do. So I'm coming back now and coloring in the violet combination and the red violet combination. So again, if you missed that, it was V160, V150, and V020 as the lightest color. So we're just going to color that in there and add in that little bit of color. And then we're going to move on to our red violet, which is R280, R270, and R50. I'm coming around the center of the petals. Anywhere a petal overlapped another petal, I put in the darkest color. I did forget to put in the shade of the shadow in the top left or right petals. I have to come back at the very end and do that, but it takes no time because these are they're a pretty good sized image, but they're small also, so it's pretty easy just to whip through the coloring. So I'm going to finish those up, and now I'm going to add the green for my leaves, and I use the same color combination for all of the leaves. I started with G1 and added it in the center of my leaves, and I'm blending that out with G3 and G2 as my lightest color, and I will do all of the leaves in this set, in this bunch, in that same color combo. All right, now we're going to color up the metal of the wheelbarrow. So for this, I'm using a cool gray. I'm using two cool gray 009, cool gray 007, and cool gray 004. So anywhere, as you noticed on the metal, that the stands that the wheelbarrow sits on, you would have a shadow anywhere, like where that V is, there would be a shadow where those two places meet. So you're going to make sure you put that in to make it realistic, and then your highlight's actually going to be kind of in the middle instead of on the where you would think it would be. It's actually in the middle. Now for my watering can, I decided just to color it in flat color. I have colored it in the past with the stippling technique, which I will show you in just a little bit. and it makes it look like galvanized metal, but I wanted to keep this super simple, and so I just colored it with just those same color cool gray markers, and just using the flicking motion of the coloring method, the flick motion to color with. So I'm putting in I put in my dark, now I'm blending that out with the cool gray 007 and blending that out, and with the 004, and that finishes up my watering can. For the center of all the flowers, I used Y5 and Y2. I also used that same color combination on the hyacinth up at the top, and now for that I'm using the stippling technique, and all you do is just dot in little dots of color, and then you come right over it with the other color and slightly let them overlap to blend it together. Super easy. It's also very cute on these flowers to add in some of the rhinestone mixes from Pajama Crafter's stamp as the center of the flowers. Gives your card an entirely different look and saves you a little bit of time on coloring. Plus, the rhinestones are super cute. I love them. My favorite out of the whole set is probably the pixie dust, the fairy dust rhinestones. They just have this beautiful iridescent look, and it just makes me happy. So I've colored up all that. Now we're going to color our real wheelbarrow. And for that, I'm using BR1, BR2, and BR3. For anywhere that there was a slat in the wheelbarrow, I come in with the BR1 and go right over that line. That way, that's going to act as my shadow underneath the slat. And then I just come right in over top of that with my other two colors. This is the BR2, which is probably one of my favorite colors because it's called potato brown, and I just think it's funny. So I'm just coloring right over that, and then I blend that out with the BR3. This is a nice yellowy, red, orangey, brown color combo. It's nice and warm. So for the handles, I use that same color combo. I've just put in the darks, and now I'm blending that out with the light. Anytime you have a highlight, it's not going to have too much for the most part. So you really don't have to have too much of a highlight. You just have to have a little bit. Your main color is going to be your shadow and your midtone. Midtone is going to be most of everything. So again, we're coming in with the BR1 and covering over those lines, adding in the darkest wherever it's going to be darkest. I'm doing a center highlight on the front of the wheelbarrow. So the center is going to be a little bit lighter than the rest of it. It's like it's going to be coming in from the side. So I've got the BR2 in there, and I'm blending this out with the BR1. I made sure to come over where the little gaps in the floral arrangement were. And then we use that same color combination for the spokes of no, they're not spokes. It'd be the handle. I don't know. The part that holds the wheel on, whatever that would be called. I'm no mechanic, so it's not my cup of tea. All right, I'm going to cut these out with everything with the matching dies. And as I've cut those out, I'm going to prep a piece of vellum with the Rabbit Hole Design powder tool, which you can pick up in the Pajama Crafter Stamps shop, because we are going to do a little heat embossing with our sentiment on some vellum. So I'm stamping this in some gold ink, pigment ink. It's the Happiness is Spring. Happiness is the first sign of spring. It's the sentiment I chose for the front of the card. I'm using some gold embossing powder to put on top of that, and I want to make sure it's nice and covered. And while I've done all that, I've let my heat tool sit off the side, and that way I was able to get a nice quick heat, melt my embossing powder really quick. Now I'm going to cut the center of the circle off. Save the part, that circle. You can use it for another project. And I'm going to add some embossing to this. I just picked an embossing folder from my stash. I spritzed it with water so it wouldn't crack the cardstock. And I ran that through. I'm going to set it to the side to dry. And while we are doing that, I am going to dry it and make sure it's dry. I've already done the center panel with the scene. And I just I'm going to add some foam tape behind our window. That way it's going to be nice and popped up and lifted from the card base. And I'll be able to tuck in elements that we have cut out. And it gives it a different dimension. You can use this card design for any kind of card. It just makes it super fun and a different look. You could also turn it into a shaker. You can see I have my scene right there, and all I really had to do was enough of the scene that's going to be shown in the window. So I didn't have to do everything. So I'm going to come in now, put that to my card base, make sure my card is nice and flat, and I'm going to add my window opening to the front of the card. Sorry, I had to fix my pump. I'm going to add some liquid adhesive to the back, and I'm going to attach this straight down. I'm going to pick the card up, line it up, press together the corners. That way I make sure that everything's lined up nice and easy. I'm going to add my heat embossed sentiment, and for this I'm going to add adhesive, just a little bit of liquid adhesive along the embossed words in the back. That way, with the tiny, tiny dots, you're not going to see the embossing, or see the adhesive, I'm sorry. So I'm going to attach that to my card and just kind of make sure it's nice and straight. And then we're going to go ahead and lay out our other elements here, our wheelbarrow and watering can and our little flowers. So I'm going to flip that over so I can add foam tape behind. That way I know where it's going to land on the inside of the window and where it's going to land on the outside, so I know where I can put my liquid adhesive on there. So I'm going to go ahead and add some foam tape behind the little flowers, because they're going to be popped up also. And then I'm going to peel off these backings, add a little bit of liquid glue behind the wheelbarrow. That way I can have a little bit of wiggle room, and add it onto the parts that are going to be touching the card base. And I can just attach this right down get my little tweezers. I'm going to tuck the wheel right underneath the sentiment, and that way everything is nice and level. Now I'm going to tuck the watering can right there also. I did that same thing. And for the flowers, I'm going to sprinkle them around the card. I'm going to add a little bit of liquid glue anywhere that it's going to hang off. I have foam tape into the window and just adhesive on the other. So we're going to do that same thing. I can't decide if I like the butterflies better or if I like the flowers on this design. I think it's a super cute design, and like I said, it's very versatile. You could easily turn this into a shaker card if you wanted to. Now we're going to do a little finishing work, and I'm going to add in my gel pen highlights anywhere I feel there needs to be just a little bit of a pop of color. I like on the wheelbarrow to add just the little dots. That way it makes it look like maybe nail heads. I do add a little to each of the flowers. Anywhere that I think light would be hitting, they need a little pop. I just add just a very little bit of the highlight, nothing fancy. For the fanciest it gets with the highlights is on that watering can right there. I did cover up my mistake where I let the marker bleed out. And that's another great thing about the gel pen. You can do that. I'm going to come in now with my clear overlay pen and add a little bit of glitter to the flowers. And I do add a little bit to the watering can as well. You can see me coming off the side of the screen because I'm dipping my glitter brush into what I squeezed out over here on the side, because to get it flowing, don't let that go to waste. Reach over there and grab it and use it. So I've just added that to all the flowers, and then I'm adding that to the center. Here's my card finished, and here is the first card. You can see, let me know what you'd like the better, is the butterfly or the flowers. Here's a look at both cards, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.